But let's talk a little bit about how this category of the mythic children has shown up and become another demarcation within the deck, because I think that's so fascinating, is where and how some of these archetypal children are mythic children that we know from story and lore and in the pages of books, but we never looked at them through the lens of archetypal children. And some of them are the sons of or the daughters of. And so tell me a little bit about how you felt when you identified those children through that lens of the mythic, and how it felt to give them their own category and start to feel their energies in different ways.
It felt very magical, tapping into that, the collective unconscious, that huge archetypal field. I think whenever you're looking at a personal story or trait through the lens of a myth, it just gives it a much bigger container. So it was really interesting to me to see, for example, I think originally we did do some renaming because the original names were quite personal to me, so we brought in the names out. Jack's daughter, Jack and the Beanstalk. Now, actually, this is probably something you don't know, Pat, at this point. That was all about me working out stuff with my father, actually. My father was called Jack. So that was very much a personal, when it came through, personal to me and my relationship with him. But then looking at it through the much more mythic lens of Jack and the Beanstalk, I understood all kinds of things about my personal history that I just was unaware of before. It brought a whole new dimension to it. And the gifts, being climbing the beanstalk, and the gifts, bringing back the gifts from the upper world as well. And seeing Jack as this kind of everyman character, it really added a very different perspective to it.
Yeah. And the card, Jack's daughter, is fascinating. You know, there's so many embedded symbols in each of the cards. There's so many reference points, and the richness of each card, the richness of the color and the energy that comes through is so compelling. And to hear that there's a very personal story being worked through with how that art came out, understanding the personal aspect of the art making process and what it offered you is part of the ripple of depth work and how compelling the art is when it moves into this universal plane and becomes archetypal prima materia, really, right?
Absolutely.
And Jack's daughter has, you know, this wonderful sort of jeweled crown that is a beanstalk in a sense, that climbs high to the sky, that offers this almost satellite-like attunement, and you know, and all of the different symbolism that comes through, and the fact that, and you mentioned this before, that each individual comes to the archetypal children sort of purely attuned to the imagery and the energy first. And hearing a little bit of the backstories from us doesn't take away at all from that very personal, energetic connection to each card in the deck, that literally it is offered as a personal touchstone. And Jack's daughter, I'm excited to see where the mythic, the bone singer's daughter, Athena's daughter, Poseidon's son, where some of the mythic connections will resonate with individuals through the lens of the personal story, recognizing something, feeling something, noticing something.
Yeah. And that mythic perspective almost inevitably brings huge unseen gifts.
Yeah.
With my experience.
Yeah. Well, the other invitation with the deck is to use it as a catalyst for one's own creative inquiry, whether through spreads and layouts and prompts, and powerful questions, so using the deck in a more classic oracle or tarot style, but also to use it as a way to articulate and maybe launch into deeper creative pattern play, to include one's own exploration of their own story through visual narrative. So enhance the deck with your own art and use it as an intermingling tool rather than a solo tool. And there's this beautiful invitation to it to extend one's own creative through the deck, that the deck is inspirational in that way, that it excites and invites new insights that can bring you sort of along a path and expand that path through creative interplay.
Yeah, definitely. I'm hoping that it will just be a catalyst to people's personal process.
Yeah.
And I love that actually, that the way the book is, it has a blank page for your own notes actually, which I think is really useful.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've shared, and Claire and I worked very consistently on the voice of each child, the deeper sort of perspective and positioning of the child.